Hello, everyone. This is Daniel with Astrology Central. I want to say hi to all my YouTube fans and anyone else that happens to be watching this video. Um, Today, I wanted to look at the placement Moon in Scorpio. Now, if you've watched my Mars in Scorpio video, um, you've got a pretty good sense about the energy of this sign as it relates to Mars. Well, in the moon, it's very similar. There are some tacit differences, but overall, we're looking at another planet that really taps into who we are as people. Um, if you're familiar with the moon sign, the moon is probably the most important planet in astrology. When we look at the moon, what we're looking at is the inner self. We're looking at the soul. We're looking at the the person that virtually no one in life will get to see besides people that you have very intimate relationships with, your children and your parents, significant others, um, caregivers, people that know you intimately will get to know your moon sign. The moon is said to be in detriment in Scorpio. There's a couple signs that the moon is said to not do particularly well in, just because of the nature of the moon. Of course, the moon is feminine. It's of a Cancer nature, and it's a very touchy-feely planet. It's concerned, it's nurturing, it's sort of the mother of the solar system. As it looks over the Earth, like a mother to a child, and the moon is very much that. And so, when it's in Scorpio, it creates what is said to be a detriment. What is said to be a placement that the moon is uneasy with. It's uncomfortable taking on the aspects of Scorpio. It's uncomfortable being concerned with the things that Scorpio is concerned with. Digging down into the depths. Looking at things from a very obsessive point of view. This isn't the moon, and this isn't part of the moon's nature naturally. I myself have the moon in Cancer, so I mean, you can imagine that. I am, my moon sign is very powerful in my own chart. But getting back to the moon in Scorpio. So when we think about the moon in Scorpio, we have to think in terms of black and white, right and wrong. Scorpio is a fixed sign. It is a sign that likes hard facts. It's a sign that enjoys investigating things and looking at what's underneath. And so there's really no room for variation. It's a very matter of fact kind of energy. And so, people with this placement are going to be just that way, within themselves, of course. This isn't the outward sort of view, but if you have this placement or people with this placement, you're going to find that, they have a kind of a reservation on the inside. You may try to get to know them. You may try to understand them on a more intimate level, as a friend or partner, or even your own children. You may, try to, get to know them better, be better connected to them. And they're very hesitant about that at first, mainly because, things like betrayal, people stabbing them in the back, these are the things they're afraid of. These are the things that they think about when they interact with people. How trustworthy is this person? So that's where they do the investigating. That's where they do all of the, MacGyver, so to speak, type work, in the background. They want to know from others and through their own efforts, what is this person about? They're very much a believer in the vetting process. Also, as relates to the moon, you may or may not know that the moon is, it's a feminine nature. It's associated with the mother in the zodiac. And so it's fairly typical, unless there's things that counteract it, for people with the moon in Scorpio to have had difficult, rough, hostile relationships with the mother. Sons and daughters with this placement, typically will have some friction associated with their mother. Either their mother was, controlling, she was a disciplinarian, she wasn't emotionally available, she wasn't very helpful in the child's life. The child found himself fending for himself, or in, in a survival mode, thinking about, how can I do without this person that's supposed to be taking care of me? And that runs right along with, the nature of Scorpio, which is to survive, which is to come out on top despite the odds. You know, it's a very survivalist sort of sign. And of course, you can begin to see why this is a detriment, because the moon by its very nature is nurturing. The moon by its very nature is one of concern, one of consoling, one of the need to take care of others, the need to be there for others. This is where the moon gets its fulfillment. And so to have this in Scorpio creates it creates an uneasy alliance, between a sign that's associated with, death, transformation, sex, rebirth, hidden secrets, things of that nature, and a planet that is, by all intention is associated with, making people feel better, making the world a better place, and, bringing comfort and aid to all those that, fall under its sway. So there's kind of a tug of war going on there, and the people with this placement will feel that in their lives. Part of this is also the fact that, people with this placement, they tend to be drama kings and queens. For some reason, things can be great. Things can be going great in a work situation, in a personal situation, and you know what? For them, they're looking at it like, okay, something has to be wrong. The things are going too well. There has to be something that I'm not seeing, and so they'll get to the bottom of it, quote unquote. They'll have this obsessive desire to continually undermine, their own instinct. Everything can appear great, and yet they're still looking, they're still searching, they're still wondering, is there something coming around the corner? This is a sign that, as I said, is all about survival. And they gravitate towards those kinds of emotions. That, is this a false sense of security? Am I truly safe? And they never really feel truly safe. They always feel the air of threat just around the corner. And so they're always looking for different things that may tip them off to, hidden dangers that, are going to befall them, just at the next turn. And this is kind of part of the obsessive compulsive nature of the sign. And, the moon being brought under this energy creates that effect within the person. Again, with the moon sign, you're not going to see this outwardly. Someone may, have, an ascendant and a sun in, a sign that's, more versatile, more open, more just kind of carefree. Could be Taurus or Gemini or Sagittarius or even Aquarius, something of that nature. But deep down, with this placement, they may feel that, there's something to this. Nothing is ever 100% a-okay. And, most of the time, they're being a little overreactive. But, every now and then, this instinct that they have, it comes in handy. And, if you really want, to know, truly for yourself, if you have this placement, why you feel this way, I hope that this helps, in that, you really never will feel 100% at ease. But you should just know that, that, you're a guarded individual, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. In relation to this, if we look at the way that you kind of internalize friendships and relationships as a whole, we cannot go without looking at, matters of, sex, death, and transformation as it relates to the moon in Scorpio. And so, when you gain friends, when you gain allies, at home, at work, and in life in general, with projects, with, various social events or activities, you're really looking to have those people for the long haul. You're not what would be considered a fair weather friend. You're really looking at holding on to people and making them your own. Part of this comes from an obsessive facet that is part of Scorpio. It's just the nature of the sign, but you really want to feel that those that you care about are also there for you. This is very important to you. That's why, I had said previously, that betrayal is a constant fear of this placement. People with Moon and Scorpio are internalizing, um, people around them as being, either a friend or a foe. It's a very black and white sign. You're with me or against me. There is no middle ground here. I mean, either they can rely on you or they can't. And if they can't, then, that's something that, they're not going to waver from. If they've deduced that you are somebody to be watched, you're a threat, you're somebody that is going to be a problem down the road, part of them will always see you this way. And of course, there may be other signs, other placements, even aspects with the moon itself, that either hamper or enhance this placement. But overall, you're going to see people as either being, with you or against you. But you're always looking to retain friends. You're always looking to retain lovers. And, part of the way you do this is through your extremes. And this has the effect of scaring people away oftentimes. People will think of someone like, this as, possibly a psychopath or somebody who's, way too obsessive about, having, solid, good interactions with another person. But for the moon and Scorpio, this is just them vetting you. This is just them taking a person that they do not know and saying, okay, what do you mean to me? And what do I mean to you? And typically, they're going to gain this knowledge. It'll sound weird, but they'll gain this knowledge through sex. They will gain this knowledge through understanding you inside and out, so to speak. They'll meet you, they'll have a good time, they'll say, hey, you know what? Let's throw caution to the wind. Let's be raw, let's be real, let's be open. Let's lay all of our cards on the table. And for someone that is going to do that, this to them is a sign that you're somebody of value. If you're hesitant, if you don't surrender yourself, so to speak, to this person with this placement, they're going to have a tough time with you. They're always going to be looking over their shoulder, thinking, is this person really here to help me? Is this person really here to be a part of my life in a very holistic and comforting kind of way? Or do they have ulterior motives? Is there something up their sleeve? And this is a constant theme throughout life, and that's why, once again, this placement is, it's a detriment. It's detrimental to the moon. If you've seen my Mars and Scorpio video, there it's a little bit different because, in that facet, the sign of Scorpio is enabling Mars, to be all it can be. You're the soldier in the trenches. You're getting dirty. You're getting things done. You're making things happen. You're dogged. You're determined. Not so much the case with the moon. The sign of Scorpio, has the effect on the moon of, creating, once again, that obsessive compulsive desire to constantly, be looking out for oneself, looking out for the safety and security of oneself. And so, they have this kind of sexual gravitation that will pull people to them. And I believe they understand this. Anyone that I have known or read about who has had this placement, they've been aware that, they can pull people to them. And, just because they can do that doesn't mean for them that, they're thinking, okay, everyone that comes to me is, 100% true. And, they're going to love me and, we're going to have a great time and all this and that. No. You can think of a gold miner. You can think of someone who pans for gold and, they have to, get the dirt and they have to, swish it around in that tray, and let the dirt fall out, and then the gold nuggets remain at the top. This is what the moon in Scorpio does. They start out with many and they wind up with few. They're always, looking for, those gold nuggets. In this case, people who represent those gold nuggets, people who are the most value to them. And you'll find that there is some people consider this to be a perverse aspect. Some people consider it to be simply, a test of truth, where, they will put you through tests. For women that, are watching me right now, let's say that you have, a spouse, a boyfriend, whatever, with, this placement. That guy's going to put you through tests. That guy is going to put you through, different, um, call them trials, where, oh, you didn't do this, so, what's going on with that, or there, and it can be exhausting, for someone who is, a little bit tired of being looked at as, a suspect, you know, and for them, for a moon in Scorpio, they would rather lose someone who is not 100% with them than hang on to a bunch of people who are, only half in the picture, people who are fair weather friends. They don't subscribe to those kinds of relationships. And so, if you find that, someone that you're dealing with in a lighthearted way really isn't responding to you, and they have this placement, let's say you've discovered that they have this placement, this is why, because those relationships don't energize them. They want to know that someone's in it for the long haul before they start dedicating time, love, money, resources, whatever you want to call it, to another human being. And so, more superficial signs, can have issues with this, and it can be a rough haul, for a Gemini, or, for a Pisces, or for someone who, really just wants to take it, a little bit at a time, kind of get a sense of, what's going on. And, they're not about that. They want everything here, now, today. They want to know up front, are you with me? Are you not? And once again, this ties into the deep fears of betrayal. This ties into the belief that, there's always going to be something or someone out there to get them. And that brings me to, a rather interesting point where, they have this ability to, see through facades, to see through lies. If you have this placement, you know what I'm talking about. You are someone who, someone comes to you and they say something or they do something, and you immediately will know why they did it. They'll tell you a story, they'll tell you whatever, but you'll say, yeah, but you have this sort of sixth sense about people and about their motivations. And, this is something that you'll develop over time, if you have this placement of, discerning, the inner workings of, the individual mind, and that's why a lot of times people with this placement, they do very well in, jobs like probation, in psychology, in counseling, drug and alcohol counseling, especially, because they have this ability to bring people into them and then to deduce them, to cut them open, so to speak, psychologically and emotionally, and become one with them, to know them, to the 100th percentile. And this is a power that is, unique to this placement. Mars and other places does other things, but in the moon, in this planet that governs our emotions, our soul, our inner self, so much that is at the core of who we are as people, this is really, somebody that has the ability to, tap into the inner workings of, the minds of people around them. And, they can make people angry. They can bring people to tears. They can, because they're constantly learning. They're constantly learning about the world around them and about people around them. Situational awareness is, probably, one of the biggest components of this placement. In the mundane world, I would think of this as being, really not so much a detriment, but really something that, you have to harness, you have to hone, and you have to look at as being a power and ability that is unique to you, if you have this placement. And, really, if you're someone that knows someone with this placement, to get used to the fact that, you have somebody there, who is dedicated, so this has been my analysis of the moon in Scorpio. I'll see you all later. Have a good night.